I love that.
Hello, friends. It's the Cinemondo podcast. Guess what we're talking about?
What could it be? I think it's broken.
Yeah, like
it's black.
Let me smash the glass here. Yes.
There we are. Okay, this is probably the most buzz about series I've been hearing about. We're going to review all the episodes. We just kind of started it, but everyone is talking about Black Mirror. They always do. Every time Black Mirror comes out, it's all the talk because I love how they take what you kind of take for granted, like the idea of like the first episode, like subscriptions, subscriptions plus stuff without advertising. All these are ads. It's like all this stuff that pertains to how we use technology that we don't even sort of notice, and then they take it and make it scary as hell.
They push it to the extent really of what how human behavior tends to exploit and abuse. Anytime there's a new toy, a new thing, a new something, you can guarantee somebody is going to abuse it.
Yes.
And any kind of cool feature, it's the thing that people post. It's like, this is why we can't have nice things or good things. It's like the reason is because there's always going to be somebody out there who's going to graffiti on the art or something. Right. So then you have to put a big rail around it. And then somebody is going to break the rail and graffiti the art. And then you have to put a big glass wall around it. And then you can't allow people to see it anymore.
Nobody thinks the rules apply to them.
Right.
It's everyone else. And so with this, it's more like the rules are all around us. We just don't notice them. And the next thing we know, we're paying out the ass for 1 million subscriptions we didn't know we had. And then those subscriptions are coming to life and killing us. Basically But
this episode, the second episode that we're going to talk about, the title of it is Bête Noir, which is a thing that is sort of hated, a dark beast, I guess. It's a
very pretty phrase for something very scary.
Yeah, but it's like some reason sometimes you just don't like somebody, and then what I like about certain stories is how they start and you feel like, oh, this is, wait, why do these people not like each other? And then you kind of slowly find out the backstory, which is kind of cool. And you know what? We're going to spoiler zone. We have to say that
spoilers.
We're not going to totally tell you how it ends at the very end, but you have to sort of talk about this one because otherwise you're just going to say it's about some people at work.
It's about toxic workplace. That's basically what it's about. Well, I love how they introduce a main character and you're kind of on her side just automatically because we're in her world. We're watching her succeed. She's at work. Like she's a upcoming star at work, creating different kinds of candy for this company. Yeah. And she's like on her way up. She's very assertive, very confident woman. She seems very cool. She's young, but she's got it going on. It's cool to see her. Yeah. And then it all gets derailed by someone who just happens to show up in one of those panels where they ask for what are those called? Like where you go in and it's just a bunch of people talking about like movie posters or movies or like products. Like everyone tastes it, they give their feedback.
Yeah, there's different names, like a control group or a test group, test marketing group.
I wasn't sure it was different for candy, but
I don't know, like a taste test group where they come in and everybody takes a little piece and it's like.
But it's funny when the girl said she recognized one of the people who came in.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, wait, I know her. When she realizes someone she went to school with, red flags went off for me because anything that happened back in school is usually bad news.
Right.
You know what? So someone coming from your past that you just go to school with, you have no idea, like, where did you stand? Where were you? What groups you're hanging out with? Did you date her boyfriend? Did something happen? You can always assume there's bad blood, and there is. We just don't know what yet.
And why are you coming back into my life?
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
Exactly.
It's interesting. It does go through all those dynamics, all those school dynamics and how awful kids are. And so this woman comes into one of the test group things and she and our main protagonists here, or our star, the person we're focusing on, looks at her and says, oh my God, that's Verity. That's somebody I knew in school, but she doesn't really seem like she likes the idea. And she just kind of blusters on into the company and everybody just loves her. Everybody loves this Verity. And the weird thing is that the main character, Maria, says these things about her that you sort of start doubting her motives here when she's like, she was just a nerd. She was just weird.
Yeah.
She was all into computers and stuff.
It's this
And
weird
you're like,
hair.
had crazy hair, mad hair.
So you're sort of not liking her. You feel like she's being a mean
like,
girl all of a sudden. And this girl seems perfectly harmless. Like you don't really understand why she's being so terrible about this girl.
She seems a little quirky, but cool. You know, I mean, it's like, what's wrong? I was that nerd in school. I was totally a nerd. I think people from my high school would look at me and say, oh, he was a total nerd. He was always drawing and, you know, making little Super 8 films, and what a nerd. But
then the camera did hold on her a little too long sometimes. And you see her look.
Like,
and so they're kind of giving us, cluing in that maybe she is a problem. Yeah, she would like always like rubbing on this special little charm necklace she had, and you're kind of wondering like, what's that about?
Like she's kind of quirky, like had some
Yeah.
OCD stuff to her. Yeah. But you know, what we like to do here at Cinemondo is totally spoil everything. But no, we want to recommend this very highly. Of course, it's Black Mirror. Go watch it, and then come back and watch the rest of this, because it turns out that Verity has she was a computer nerd, and what she was doing was kind of this. A lot of times in Black Mirror, we have technologies that exist and they just push them a little bit into the future. Yeah. This one is one of the examples of a technology that is way over a threshold. She has created some technology that does not exist and likely will not exist, and hopefully will not or doesn't already. But she's able to alter reality with this computer thing that she invented. They don't really explain it much, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
It's just they don't go into detail about how
I just did it. I made
like,
this
thing and it worked. I made this thing that can alter reality. So anyway,
just take you to a different timeline where this is what it was then. But I love how they kind of start introducing it and it's the kind of things we think, like the name of a restaurant that she's convinced is Bernie's. Yeah. And everyone else is calling it Barney's, and she's being
Barney. Like, it's like, it's always been Barney's.
And we've had those moments where I could swear, like you remember, like I could swear that's what they said, and then it's not. You know, she thinks she's going crazy, right?
And I loved how they did that, because you're thinking you want to rewind it and see, because the guy had a cap that said Barney's or Bernie's.
Too. Yeah, because they made a big deal of him putting the hat on the table and how he had hat hair now, and I didn't really pay attention to the hat.
But that happens, you know, it's like you have these memories. I've had that happen a few times. It happened to me in my life way before I could blame being senile or anything. But but the idea that you totally remembered something wrong, like when you get together with your friends, your old friends, and you're like, I remember the time
you're like, no, I don't.
When I did this thing, like I did something, and somebody is like, actually, I was the one that did that.
I know. And so that they played a lot with that, which I thought was really smart, because how you're remembering things and how they actually are sometimes two different things. And we're relying on our own memories and then our own, like, maybe we've been told the story so many times, we believe that's how it was. You know, no one's really totally sure. So I love that they played with that, because you weren't quite sure where it was going.
And how weird and unsettling it is when you realize I remembered that wrong. Yeah. My memory of that was wrong. But there's more to it in this story. It's Verity is actually causing these things with her invention.
Yes.
And it's one of those Black Mirror episodes that goes pretty bonkers. It's like, it pushes things. I love how they push the ideas of the technology. They push, like, if this thing existed, here's what could happen.
Yeah.
And Verity has invented this thing that can alter reality. So what would you do if you could alter reality? You'd make yourself the emperor of the universe, or you would make yourself
super rich,
or famous astronaut, famous, you know, whatever. And I
like the idea where she asks her, like Maria asks her, like, why are you doing this? You have all this thing. And she goes, I got bored. I just want to come back and get vengeance, basically, on all the people who did me wrong.
She said, of all the things I do, I've been the empress of the universe, but there was always still this thing that was in there that ruined everything for me. And it's because of you. You teased me in high school. She was a bully and started this rumor about her and the teacher, and the teacher had to leave town, and she ended up losing her favorite teacher who was very encouraging to her. And there was no, horrible, sexual affair between them in high school. It was like, the kids were so awful that they were teasing her because she was a weirdo.
And then she tried to put herself outside of it. Like, oh yeah, she was bullied at school. She was the worst one. We find out the character that has been our way into the story as the worst bully who created this in the first place, who created this terrible, toxic relationship in school. And then they also explore kind of the toxic workplace where she's a hard character to like. She's really arrogant. She's kind of hysterical. She's always like lording it over everyone, being the know-it-all. So even though she was right in most of what she was saying, it was a hard character to like. And so I wasn't even sure if we were supposed to like her, because I think our sympathies might have been more for Verite at first because she seemed nice, but you knew there was something up. But our character was so obnoxious that we were like,
Maria was,
she was so terrible. So
and the fact that you're seeing this kind of terrible person getting a bit of comeuppance, but you still feel like, there's a scene where somebody accuses her of something and Verity is like, well, yeah, she did it. I saw her do it. And then somebody says, well, we have the security camera. Let's check that. And she's like, yes, let's check the security camera.
She's like, yeah, this will show I'm right.
And it's this incredible gut-wrenching scene where you see something happen that didn't happen because you're watching the show. You saw what happened. And you realize that Verity is, a witch or something. At first I thought she was some kind of a magical witch, but
everyone like what? How did she video, right? The only thing is because Maria is such a hard person to like in the show, even though she's right and we feel like we're on her side. When she decides to go to Verite's house and break in and I was like, hold on a minute. Like what? No, I was losing faith in our character at that point because I'm like, you can't just go in and do that. Even though she's right, even though this is a bad character, it's a bad guy. It was still, they didn't present it in a way that I wanted to believe this was the right thing to do. Like this is her only option. Right.
But it wasn't, she was a horrible person.
Horrible. And what's so funny about it is that even at the end, when, she kind of gets to be who she wants to be, she's also horrible. Like, worship me. Like that's her first idea. Get on your knees and worship me. That's what she decides to do with her power. Like, so I thought that was really funny that even though she's trying to position herself as being superior to Verite, that she would never do. Why don't you do something good? Why don't you? And then when she gets the power, same terrible person. So that's the spoiler.
It's the abuse of technology thing. It's like, what would we always talk about this with things like superheroes, where if you have a superpower, it's like super cool. Bruce Wayne is a good man. Clark Kent is a good man, and Wonder Woman and all the superheroes. Fortunately, in the comic books, they're good people. There's also super villains, but some of the stories ask, what would you do? What would happen if somebody who had Superman's powers was not a good person? What if they were like a white supremacist, and
become a super villain?
But what if there wasn't a superhero to save us from that?
We're seeing that right now.
And in this story, you've got somebody who basically has a superpower. And what would you do with it? You do these petty things to get back at people that wronged
hurt
you.
Your feelings in high school.
Hurt your feelings in high school.
I don't remember anyone's name in high school, let alone that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. So
I have no desire to
no way. I
don't
want to revisit
vengeance on the people that called me nerd.
I'd rather be Empress of the Universe than go back to high school. No desire to do that. But I did think it was a fun episode. I loved the wardrobe. I like the wardrobe choices because they made Verite very cute with her cute colors and her stripy shirts and her cute jeans. And then you have, Maria a little bit edgier. She's a little more professional. She's got like the cool kind of fashionable dark clothes. Like she's looking like kind of like the villain in a way. So you're seeing this cute little blonde hair to, the hyper aggressive, career woman, which, is always bad news in shows for some reason. But I love that. So I like the contrast, like who to believe. Like she was trying to, rise up in her career, and then she's getting derailed, and everyone's, thinking she's hysterical for good reason. But see that I love that too, because that's how it's treated at work without the big machine. Like women have a different sort of kind of path and a different level of authority that's listened to a lot of times. So a lot of times when women are trying to be strong, they're considered too bitchy or too strong or overbearing. And there's always that line people have to walk. So I feel like they kind of showed a lot of that too, where she's talking to her male boss trying to figure it out. And he's like, it'll be okay, we'll do this. She goes, no, listen to me. And he's like, calm down, you're getting hysterical. It's like, oh my.
And it's the adult version of bullying, you know, when you put somebody down who you think has too much power. You know, I don't think that person should have that. And when you look at the when they go into the idea of when they were in high school together, and Verity was in computer class, and she was this nerdy girl, and there's a sad photograph. They show an old photograph of the sort of popular girls in the foreground, and you kind of zoom into the background, and she's back there looking kind of like out of place. And,
it's really sad.
But the thing is, in high school, she was the one who was doing something. She was studying computers, and she was making herself into a smart person, and she didn't care so much about all the fashion and the girls and the popular girls. She didn't care about being popular. She was focusing on the things that she was interested in. She was focusing on being herself and expressing herself and all that, you know. And that, of course, is something that you get punished for in the world. And unfortunately, as much as people say, be yourself, you know, be your own self,
just do it.
It ain't true a lot of times. People want you to conform. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do and get in line with everybody else. Unfortunately, it takes extra effort and strength to be yourself.
That's right. So they have that. They have, you know, women trying to be taken seriously. We have the toxic office environment where there's little like groups that, you know, don't let anyone else in. It's just like high school. Like how they revisited that again. Like that's our whole life is finding your clique, and then
all these petty things, like,
and all the petty things.
Who's drinking my milk?
Yeah, you keep drinking my milk. Like these kind of sabotages, you know, and you find out who's really doing it. And so then it all boils down to woman against woman. You know, the grievances and the takedown of power and what to do with that power. So it had a lot of complex things going on. It was just a little hard episode for me to super like, because I just didn't like the main character very much. And so even though she was right and I enjoyed the journey, I just didn't feel like any real strong feelings toward that character. Like I didn't care if she succeeded because she was so unlikable. So that was my only complaint with that. But overall, I love the presentation, beautifully directed, complicated idea that they made, you know, accessible, which is hard to do for Isaac, but, you know, classic Black Mirror.
And it was, I really liked it because it was so unpredictable. You kind of don't know where it's going, and you're like, what is happening here? And I always like that about stories. Like at first, like we were talking about earlier, where Verity shows up and Maria is like, oh no. She's like, it's like, well, what happened between them? You know, what really happened? And you find out, and you find out the backstory, and it's sad, and it really does point, because I knew people like that in school. I was pretty much a nerd, but there was a level of nerd that was even nerdier than me, if you could believe that.
No, I don't believe it.
Like I had a friend who got relentlessly.
No one's nerdier than us.
But I have a friend who super smart guy, really into electronics, you know, just sort of like like a boy Verity.
High school.
But you know what was funny? People used to make fun of him, and people used to give him shit about,
and they need him.
But you know what? I used to go over to his house, and he had the most kick-ass stereo system.
I'm sure he did.
And I remember he put on Pink Floyd, and we sat in his living room and we listened to, you know, Dark Side of the Moon or metal or something. And it was like, this is the coolest thing. And he was so into cool music, and nobody knew that his inner life was actually super cool. He was like way cooler than most of the people who thought they were cool.
That's right. Then two nerds fell in love.
What?
Two nerds fell in love.
Yeah, well, we're still friends. Yeah, we're
so cool.
Friends.
I love that.
And,
see, that's the thing. I feel like the nerds, the invisible people, the people who were just keeping their head down doing the work, that weren't the cheerleaders, weren't the football players, weren't the big popular kids.
Those were my favorite people.
They're the ones to watch, and they're the ones I relate to also. They're usually the movie fans. They're usually like the cult movie fans. Like movie fans, we just want to see movies. We didn't want to go to parties. We didn't want to do dancing or DJs. We want to see movies. That was my whole life. So I was one of those two.
So this is basically an episode about the consequences of bullying. Don't bully other kids.
Don't be a bully. Just be cool.
They're going to turn into a witch and ruin your life.
Hard enough being in high school. You don't need to make it worse. Like, seriously. All right. That's the lesson we learned. Don't be mean. Quit being mean.
And oddly enough, not all Black Mirror episodes, in fact, this one included, don't always have a moral or a lesson to be learned. A lot of times it's just random bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people in these episodes, just like real life.
Just like real life. There is no justice. Not really. Yeah. All right, you guys, let us know what you think of Black Mirror. Bête Noir. Black monster? Is that what it is? Black beast.
Like the dark monster,
beast.
or something like that.
So
A thing that people don't like.
Yeah, let us know what we missed. If you know any Easter eggs or any little weird, cool, like usually Black Mirror has little callbacks to other episodes. If we missed one, let us know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.